It's Ash from Super Videos back for another Fear the Walking Dead Season 3 video. This is going to be the review for 304, which was called 100. So, just overall, I think that this episode was a bit slower than the last episode. It was definitely not as focused on different characters and, developments and storylines and the discussion between characters as the previous episode. It was more basically focused on Daniel Salazar himself, and obviously with his return at the end of last episode, it definitely felt that this belonged and it felt right, but at the same time it was definitely slower and very much focused on Daniel Salazar. So this was basically a bottle episode that was exploring Daniel's story from where we left off the last time we saw him before his return with the fire and everything, up until he found Strand, and then a bit after that as well. So because this was a bit of a slower episode, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the last episode. It was still a good episode, a strong episode, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed 303. So to get to the discussion, we have the intro with Daniel showing from when the fire happened, when he disappeared, how he was trying to survive, struggling to survive, and things like that. So that was a good intro, although I definitely wanted to see how he survived. So I wanted to see after the fire how he got out. So it would have been very good if they actually showed that, show exactly what he did to get out, and maybe even recap a little bit from that point on. But we didn't get that. Then we have Danielle meeting someone called Efrain. Now Efrain's character, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right or wrong, but I don't feel the character. I'm not excited in the character. I don't feel like I want to see more of the character. I think he's a good character. He's morally good in that world, and there are some good moments with him, but I'm not really that interested in the character. So that's one of the main reasons I didn't really enjoy this episode as much, but we're gonna see him later on as well, so I'm hoping that I'm gonna feel more attached and enjoy him and like his character more and more. We have the part where Daniel gets water, so that was very cool, how a friend basically saved Daniel and basically gave him water, and he was one of the main reasons why Daniel is still alive, so that was very cool to see. We have the part where they're hiding from another group, and as we know now, they were probably hiding from Dante's group. So it was definitely cool to see, a good tense moment at that point, so that was cool to see. Daniel getting his leg fixed, it was brutal. I almost couldn't watch, but I definitely like those kind of scenes because that's what makes the episode or the show in general realistic, and it makes us feel like we are there with the characters because we're going through the things they're going through. So I definitely liked it, but it was tough to watch. But that's one of the reasons I liked it, because it was so realistic. We have the part where Daniel opens up to Efrain and basically says that he thinks he burned his daughter alive. He thinks that he burned Ophelia alive. We still don't know where Ophelia is. She's definitely alive. I think that Jeremiah from the ranch community was the one that found her, so I definitely think that she's alive. She's somewhere in the ranch or somewhere close to the ranch or something. So it's going to be interesting to see when she comes back and to see Danielle and Ophelia reunite. But we have the part with Danielle saying that he thinks that he killed her and burned her alive and everything. So it was definitely good to see him open up, not just about the Ophelia part, but about his past as well. So a bit of a connection with those characters, which was very interesting, very cool to see. And then we have Efrain passing out. At that moment, I thought that he was dead or something, and we didn't see him for much of the episode after as well. And I think that that was done on purpose for us to think that he was dead. So when Danielle rats him out, so then at that point it's unknown and it's a bit of a surprise. So I definitely understand why they did that, but it felt a bit weird because it felt like he passed out and then Daniel left. So it definitely felt like he was dead. So it was confusing in a way, but I kind of understand why they did it. Then we have the part where Daniel is killing a bunch of walkers, and then there's this huge walker that walks up to Danielle. Danielle can't even hit him. He hits him and then the stick breaks. So he's a huge walker. He's a huge guy. but we have the lightning hitting the walker in the head and killing him. That was epic. I enjoyed it. I definitely liked it. I think that was one of the kind of key or the highlights of the episode because it was so cool to see. Definitely one of the coolest walker kills. A bit unrealistic, a bit kind of out there, but cool to see. So then going from there, we have Danielle being taken to where Dante is. At that point, we didn't really know it was Dante's group, but we kind of could put the pieces together and know it, but at that moment it wasn't revealed yet. But he goes there and works as a janitor and basically tries to survive like everybody else. It was definitely cool to see him surviving a little bit. It was dragged out a little bit too much, but it was cool to see. Then we have the part where Danielle finally meets Dante. We have the part where he stabs one of the bodyguards in the hand. So the action component at that point was very cool. But we have Dante recognizing Danielle and, them talking and everything. So that was very cool, very interesting as well. Then, kind of going back a little bit with Ephraim, we find that he's not dead and Danielle basically rats him out so that they don't find out about the quote-unquote magic fountain. At that moment, I definitely didn't like Danielle. He ratted out someone who saved him. And if he wasn't there, Danielle would have been dead. So, Danielle, I definitely feel that he's cold, a cold character. And, at that moment specifically, and for most of the episode, I felt like he just didn't care about everybody else. He just cared about himself. And that, in my opinion, is not a good character. It's like a flat character who has only one emotion. They're cold, they just care about themselves. And I definitely thought that Daniel had more than that. That he was multidimensional, that there was more depth to his character than first meets the eye. And I'm definitely right about it, and we see that by the end of the episode, but they didn't really show that throughout the episode, and they kind of made us think that Daniel is very cold, that he doesn't care. And that's definitely not the case. Things really tear him apart. Things he's done, things he has to do. But we didn't really get that in most parts of the episode. So I definitely think that they could have shown that. So that's a bit of a problem I have with this episode, is how they portrayed Daniel and how they moved his character forward and how they kind of changed his character in a way. But going from there, and to also add to that, we have the part where Danielle refuses to help Strand. He basically says, I'm not saving you. So again, they show Danielle to be a cold character. So I definitely think that it doesn't feel consistent with what we've seen from him before. He was cold as well before, but he showed more emotion. He showed less and less emotion in this episode until the very last moment or the very last scene. So then going from there, we have the part where Ephraim, Danielle, and Dante are basically face to face, all of them. We have Danielle kind of, in a way, hitting, beating up Ephraim, and almost even torturing him. But obviously at the last moment, the girl, I think it's Ephraim's daughter or something, saves him. Everything kind of ends there. Another problem in this specific scene, it just kind of cut off. I wanted to see a bit more. They needed to build it up a bit more. But they kind of stopped it in the middle of a very tense scene. So a bit of a problem there. But then obviously we have the part where Daniel is basically helping Dante throw people off the cliff. And just when he's about to throw the girl off, he takes the gun, shoots the guys, and then shoots Dante in the head and kills him. So a very cool end. I definitely liked how they did that, how they kind of built that up until the very last moment where Daniel finally killed Dante. But I was interested to see more of Dante. His story kind of ended a bit too early, in my opinion. So I definitely wanted to see a bit more. But I guess that there's going to be another kind of bad guy after, maybe Troy, maybe some other group, maybe the helicopter group. But in terms of the first kind of main villain from this season, Dante was the villain and he's dead now. So we kind of have to move on now to see what happens after that. We have the part where the girl forgives Danielle. So that was a very cool emotional scene as well. Now, in terms of the entire episode, like I said, it was slow. It was definitely not as character driven as the previous episode. There was less discussion between characters. There was a bit of that between Danielle and Ephraim, but other than that, there was really nothing. It was basically just focused on Daniel himself and what he went through. Basically the things that he had to do to survive. But overall, I think that this episode was a strong episode. It wasn't as strong as the previous one, but it was a good episode. In terms of a ranking, I would give this episode a mid-high good rating. There was a few problems I had with it, but overall a very strong episode. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.